Perhaps one of the most anticipated episodes of the Boardman Black and Gold podcast to this date. 3 years running for this podcast, just a little over a year running for this specific segment. This is Outside Perspective, and we're talking about the Chicago Bears today with one of our great friends, both myself and David.
Sorry. I had that queued up. As soon as you mentioned the Bears.
We'll see how that audio sounds, but we've got the Bear Down Chicago Bears already going in this segment of Outside Perspective. Myself, Zane Bloom, I'm joined with Logan Foote this week, a diehard Bears fan, a very passionate Bears fan, and you will most definitely be seeing that come out in the subsequent minutes, tens of minutes, or perhaps hours that we talk about the Chicago Bears ahead of this Pittsburgh Steelers week in Week 12. Logan, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Well, hello, Zane Bloom. Hello, David Sanchez. Hello, all Steelers fans. Hello, viewers in, I think, Norway and all of Europe and wherever else across the globe. So honored to be on the Boardman Black and Gold podcast. Hello, the Warden family. I know y'all listen. Joseph, the Kirsty family, and everyone that listens, everyone that supports. Shout out you guys. You guys are the real heroes. First of all, happy Victory Tuesday. We're on a streak, baby, but I'll get to myself. Logan, been a Bears fan my whole life. Why? Because I like pain and suffering. I am from Chicago area. My first ever memory of the Chicago Bears was in 2010 when Jay Cutler threw 4 interceptions in one game through D'Angelo Hall. All 4 interceptions to D'Angelo Hall. And ever since that, I've been like, you know what? Yeah, this is my team. And they brought me nothing but pain. But here I am, 15 years later, 22 years old, like, die hard. Let's go Bears. We have sucked my entire life except for like 2 or 3 years. And, you know, here we are. Go Bears. We ride or die. And fortunately, recently, we've been riding hard. We've been riding.
Well, that's kind of my first thing that I wanted to kind of pose to you is, you know, is the luck finally turning around for this franchise? Because, you know, you sit at 7-3. You just came back in pretty remarkable fashion in not just last week, but the last several weeks. You know, these weeks where it's usually the Bears would lose by 1 score in some heartbreaking fashion, they're finding ways to actually win these games this year. And now they're propped up again at 7-3, and they're at the top of the NFC North, which is pretty remarkable. So what are your opinions on that? You know, do you have a little bit of pause, or what is your mindset with the team right now?
Oh, I always have pause with the Chicago Bears. It feels like every 7 to 8 years, the Bears are like just like things come together for like no reason. 2010, we made the NFC Championship game, lost to the Packers, but we still made it. 2018 was our best year, like, in a while. We went 12-4, you know, doubled the Wank L. But now 7 years later, here we are. And it just feels like something like that's going to happen again. I'm pessimistic. I mean, I'm just a Bears fan. But what's exciting, what's cool, though, is that the Bears have been so bad for a while that, like, you know, from like 2018 and like onward, like 2019, 2020, 2021, like, we were like, all right, like 2020 made the playoffs and like we were good. So it's kind of like when you're in those close games, it's like you're still nervous, you're still anxious, because like, you know, like our team sucks, but like, you know, we can win this one. But then we just like the Justin Fields era, like Matt Nagy, Matt Eberflus, the terrorist era, like, it got so bad to the point of like, oh, it's a close game. Yeah, we're gonna lose this. To the point where you don't even get like nervous, you don't get anxious. It's like, oh man, wonder how we're gonna blow this game. And every time without fail, we just do. But now we're 7-3. We have won so many close games, whether it's the Bengals game, the Giants game this past week, against the Vikings. Like, these games that we usually lose, we're winning now. And it's just cool to see like the coaching, like Ben Johnson specifically, just turn things around. While I don't think our talent is there to like make any crazy playoff push, like, it's just fun to watch. I'm just taking it for what it is.
Well, that's good. I think that's important, you know, especially, I mean, you and I share baseball, similar fandoms with the White Sox and the Pirates. You know, we kind of just take what we can get. And so it seems like that's a good mindset for a lot of Bears fans right now. And you're not the only Bears fan I know. And it's funny too, because the other Bears fans that I'm also friends with, they're also in that same boat to where they're not getting their expectations up necessarily, but they're enjoying the ride. And I think that's important, especially for teams like that, is to enjoy where you are right now, because you never know when it does come crashing down. And I guess the next thing is, you know, you kind of talked about the talent level on this team. the first thing that I want to talk about, personnel wise, is the offensive line, because
Yeah.
I know that they really did a big job in the offseason to bolster the offensive line. And I guess my question is, just how different is that this year as opposed to years past, where it's been like less than ideal, especially on the offensive front?
Well, our offensive line has been like some of the worst in football in the past like 5 years, like literally awful. Yeah, it's been abysmal. But what's been really cool though is this year finally, I think Ben Johnson and just our president Kevin Warren like just came in and really put the pressure on Ryan Poles, our GM. It's like, hey, if you don't get an offensive line for Caleb Williams and this offensive core, then like you're out. Like you gotta get the boot because that is the number one issue. You look at the Eagles, and you look at like their talent, like their offense last year was like crazy good, and like yeah, like Jalen Hurts is like I think he's good, and I think like the system was good last year. But the driving force is the offensive line. Like that's what it is in like pretty much every Super Bowl winning offense. The Patriots offensive line for their dynasty was like nuts as well. So that was just really cool going out and getting these guys. I mean Joe Tunney, that was huge. Drew Dahlman, Donald Wright, who we drafted instead of Jalen Carter. It's like yeah, I could have had Jalen Carter, but Donald Wright has been probably like a top three like offensive lineman this year, like top three tackle, and he's just been it's been really nice. So our offensive line isn't exactly where I want it to be yet, and our depth is a little weak, but it's been definitely an improvement, and that's one of those areas where it's like you have give and take, and we can take the good with how good the offensive line's been this year compared to most years.
Well, especially since Caleb Williams was just running for his life
Oh my
last year.
gosh!
I
Yeah,
mean,
last year's like most sacked quarterback like ever besides David Carr. Like back in 2002 with the Texans, like he was getting it like every week. And the thing is, like he escaped more sacks than anybody else as well. So it's like this man's getting sacked more, and he's also escaping more sacks. He's not just sitting like a bird. He's moving around. He's agile, and he's honestly still doing that this year a little bit, but to a lesser degree. And that just speaks to his elusiveness as well.
so his weapons this year, I mean, I have Caleb Williams in my dynasty football league behind Josh Allen, and that's like a really nice security blanket for me. I don't start Caleb Williams most weeks, but the fact that I have him in the wings is really encouraging to me, and I've loved to just kind of watch his progression. And I think he's going to be a big asset for the Bears moving forward. But what about his weapons this year offensively? You've got DeAndre Swift, you got your 7th-round pick in Kyle Monangai, who kind of came on a couple weeks ago. Colston Loveland was a first-round tight end. He was drafted above Tyler Warren, which is a big deal. You've got Luther Burden inserted this year, DJ Moore, Romo Dunze. There seems to be some substantial weapons on this team. How are they utilizing them this year, and are they utilizing them in a way that is encouraging to you?
Well, it's really interesting because you like look at these guys and it's like, oh yeah, like you have some talent here, Swift, Dunze, DJ Moore, like Cole Kmet, like all that. But like for like a little bit, Caleb Williams' like number one target was like Olamide Zaccheaus, and it's like, all right, like yeah, he's using these guys, he's using like Smythe on like this weird thing. So it's really cool to see how Caleb Williams kind of just bounces around people. But yeah, it's been sweet. I mean, we brought in this year's 3 rookies in Monangai, as you're saying, Monangai, um, Loveland, and Luther Burden, who all like contributed very, very well. Um, I mean, Loveland, yeah, like the whole, like you mentioned it, the whole Tyler Warren, like, I remember sitting in B-dubs during that draft, and I was like, man, like, what are we doing, dude? Like Tyler Warren's like right there, dude. Like, I did not get it at all. But truth be told, his stats aren't as good as Tyler Warren's this year, like Loveland, but we do not win the Giants game without him, and we don't win the Bengals game without him. So I contribute 2 wins to him, and he's been great. When none guy, we traded Khalil Herbert away last year to the Bengals for a 7th-round pick. We used that pick from a none guy, which I think just goes to show like we have some good scouts out there. And getting to see Burden more has been really great. So yeah, just utilizing guys like there's not one guy that's like, oh yeah, he's getting all the targets, but it's been a good spread this year.
So the rushing attack right now, I think at times, with Monangai in the last several weeks, DeAndre Swift maybe has taken a step back as far as like the main back production wise, but it seems like they're still both doing okay. For the Steelers right now, the Steelers have been up and down. They early on in the year, they couldn't stop the run to save their lives. And then they stopped Jonathan Taylor for his worst game by a million, when they played the Colts just a couple of weeks ago. What is the expectation this week in the running attack against the Steelers defense, which has been trending upward the last couple of weeks?
I think it's really funny because obviously Ben Johnson came from the Lions, so you have Sonic and Knuckles there, and Jameer Gibbs and David Montgomery, Bears legend. But now you have like an off-brand like Sonic and Knuckles. Like, you have the Walmart version and Kyle Monangai and DeAndre Swift. Swift was like really like he was on like my Bears like hater list for the first like 4 weeks of the season before the bye because he just could not hit a gap. Like he was doing poorly. But like we don't win this game against the Vikings if they're not there. I think against the Steelers though, I think the Bears will take notice of that. It's like, okay, the Steelers are able to shut down the Jonathan Taylors are saying. Like, probably, I think go more pass heavy with the Steelers, who obviously know more about them than I do, but I feel like their secondary is weaker than their full frontal attack. So I expect Caleb Williams to throw the ball more this week. But if we do run, like, we'll run outside, do some pitch plays and whatnot. So.
Is there any like concern with interceptions with Caleb Williams this year? Is he prone to that? I don't know if I'm really versed in that right now.
I believe Caleb Williams has thrown either like 1 or 2 picks. Like he's thrown 4 picks. He's thrown 4. He has a 13-4 touchdown interception ratio. Yeah, he does not get picked off really because honestly he throws the ball too quick. He like just throws in missiles, so not even receivers catch the ball. But yeah, I think he's really just scared to throw picks. He'll just throw it like where only the receiver can get, but only the receiver can like make a tough grab on it. Which will be interesting this week because he's going to be forced to throw the ball more. I feel, and the Bears like their game since the bye week. The reason why I've been on such a streak is because of our run game, and I think the Steelers will probably have an answer to that. So we'll see a lot from Caleb Williams this week. I feel.
Well, part of what the Steelers defensive backs continue to do week in and week out is to prove that they're defensive backs for a reason because they have interceptions right in their chest and they can't catch anything. That was not the case this last week. Kyle Duggar had a pick 6, and I think that was the first time one of our defensive backs actually caught a ball this season, which was crazy. But even against Caleb Williams, I mean, that dude throws a 95-mile-an-hour fastball. It is unreal how fast he throws that football. So I think that, I mean, if there's any worry about the interceptions as far as the placement goes, I wouldn't be super concerned as far as, our defensive backs actually catching the football, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I remember you were talking about a previous podcast. I don't remember which one it was, but like I believe you were like saying like the Steelers rely too much on turnovers, which is really interesting because the Bears kind of do the same thing. But yeah, the Bears don't really turn the ball over. We just we don't. Like I said, Caleb Williams has 4 interceptions. I think there's like 1 or 2 fumbles on the year. They have like the highest turnover plus minus out of any team in the league. So they just don't turn the ball over. So, and I know the Steelers are kind of prone to that. So there's a lot of give and take this week. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at the turnover margin, the Bears are plus 16, and that's 6 better than the second best team, which is the Rams. The Steelers were in that conversation for a while. It's in second. And then Aaron Rodgers kind of turned the ball over a couple times against the Chargers. But that's the whole thing now is like, we got those turnovers this last week against the Bengals, but we've shown that when we have to go pound for pound in the turnover margin against these teams, we really struggle with that. So if we can't force turnovers, then we're in trouble. Would you say that's the same for the Bears? I mean, they're 7-3, so it's not like they're losing that very often, but I guess what does that look like?
Oh my gosh, their defense is like the most fraudulent defense I've ever seen. Like 3 of our guys, like we lead the NFL in like interceptions. Like, and we have the top 3 like interceptions. Like, I think Kevin Byard leads the league with 5, and then Tremaine Edmonds and Nahshon Wright both have 4, and that's tied with Devin Lloyd from the Jaguars for the league lead. So that's 13 interceptions right there between 3 guys. But if we don't have these picks, like if we're not doing all this, like, yeah, we suck. Like Tyler Huntley of the Ravens, like dog walked us, like literally dog walked us, and all he did was just not turn the ball over. And I know that hurts you as a Steelers fan. I know you wanted that win from the Ravens or from the Bears against the Ravens, but I was like, yeah, like if Tyler Huntley literally does his job as a backup and just gives the ball to Derrick Henry, hits Zay Flowers just on easy targets, like they just make it easy for him, then he's fine because our pressure sucks. Like we cannot get pressure, so we rely on Kevin Byard. We relied on like these ball hawks to go just steal the ball away, and if they don't, well then we're gonna let up a touchdown. It's just the way it is.
So you're not getting a lot of pressure. Is that what I'm hearing?
Oh no, the Bears like pressure rate is like one of the worst in the NFL. Like it's terrible, which is like why like the Bears have this fraudulent case because I don't know if you watched the Vikings-Bears game from last week, but if J.J. McCarthy was like an average quarterback, like I think if Carson Wentz played on Sunday, I think we lose that game because he just overthrew guys. Vikings also dropped a lot of passes. It was just because he's just sitting back there for hours. There's no pressure. He's not rolling out. He's just sitting in the pocket doing what he needs to do. Which there's just no pressure at all.
Interesting. So that kind of leads us into the big conversation to have this week. And I know you've been itching to talk about it. I saw your eyes light up when I mentioned Aaron Rodgers like maybe 5 minutes ago. And I've kind of intentionally been ducking that for right now because I want to get to this point because this is the real big headline this week. And unfortunately, as of right now, which is, 1 o'clock on a Tuesday, we don't know who the quarterback for the Steelers is going to be in this game. Aaron Rodgers came out of last week's game with a wrist injury. Mason Rudolph came in the second half. They had pretty much identical stats in both portions of the game. But the interesting thing is, even as news comes out this morning, that Aaron Rodgers is perhaps fighting to play in this game. And as a Bears fan, I know that name does not sit well with you as far as history goes. So, let's dive into this right now. If Aaron Rodgers plays this game as opposed to Mason Rudolph, what is the outcome for the Bears in this game, I guess?
Oh, we're losing. We're losing. We're cooked. I hate this guy. I hate him so much. He's 22-5 against the Bears. Like, oh, he's the worst, dude. But if Aaron Rodgers plays, even with a broken wrist, he's gonna take perks and he's gonna win. Like he's gonna numb all the pain. He's gonna see the Hat Man, and the Hat Man's gonna lead to victory. Like we are losing this game, dude. It is written in stone. He owns us, especially in Chicago. If we were playing the Steelers with Aaron Rodgers in Pittsburgh in Acrisure Stadium, then yeah, not Heinz anymore. If we're playing in Acrisure, then I feel more confident about winning than being at home versus Aaron Rodgers. Just because he has like some sick vengeance in his mind. He just needs like therapy, let it all. He just has like this deep, dire hatred for the Bears. So I don't know. I don't like him. I've been listening to like some Bears like podcasts and like fans like whatever like what my friends are saying, some of the comment sections, and it's really divided on like Bears fans on if they actually want Rodgers to play or not. Some of them are like, oh, we want to like kill him, like yeah, send him off into retirement, like let's show him like the fist and like get him out of here. Have like one last hoorah and actually beat him because that'd be really sweet. But then you have the other ones that are like, oh, like we want to win. Like we want Mason Rudolph in there because we feel a lot more confident. And then there's like this weird third section where it's like, we want Rodgers because we think that Mason Rudolph is better. And I'm like, you're just stupid. Like I think Rodgers is so much better than Mason Rudolph. I think if Mason Rudolph plays, I think the Bears will probably win. But that also just adds to like it's this whole perception of if the Bears play Rodgers and we win, then it's like what I was saying earlier, like, okay, finally get some kind of like sweet justice. It's just like something. Obviously, he owned his first career, but just like one last game in Chicago, we beat him. Like that'd be great. But then if Mason Rudolph plays and we beat him, then it's just like the whole continue thing of like, oh, like you didn't beat Rodgers. Rodgers still owns you, as well as like, oh, we just beat Mason Rudolph. Like, yeah, it's a winning team in the Steelers, but like the asterisk win because it's Mason Rudolph and just a backup quarterback, and that just adds to how poor the strength of schedule has been recently.
So I guess the question is to you, what do you want? Like, what do you actually want? Do you want to beat Aaron Rodgers, or do you want the supposed free win against Mason Rudolph?
I don't think it'll be a free win against Mason Rudolph. I just think it'll be a lot easier. I think what I want is for Rodgers to play and us to beat him. That is definitely the perfect reality of just us beating him and just like putting the belt on him. Like that'd be great. However, like I was saying, our pressure, our front line is so freaking bad that he's just gonna sit back there. And he's old, he can't move, but he's not gonna need to move. He's just gonna sit back there like a duck and just not get hit. He's gonna wait for the tight ends to open up and he's gonna hit them. They're gonna do all the running for him. And so I would like him to play so that we can beat him. But also, I want to make the freaking playoffs, man. I just want to make the playoffs, and I think Aaron Rodgers awaits us.
Well, that's the fun thing about this matchup is that this is in a microcosm one of the biggest stories of this week, because in my mind, I'm thinking to myself, if Aaron Rodgers plays the Bears, in what would seem to be his last hurrah, the way that the universe works and the way the football gods work is sometimes there is that sweet justice that comes at the very end, even though there's been years upon years of torment prior. So in my mind, coming into this game, I'm almost the opposite of you in that if Rodgers plays this game, he's going to lose. But if Mason Rudolph plays this game, I have a better feeling that the Steelers would actually win this game personally. And, me and David are going to talk about that later this week, and we'll dive into that a little bit more in detail. But I'm kind of thinking almost backwards to what would make sense historically in this matchup right now.
Yeah, it's just both our biases speaking out. Like I have the fear of like I'm not scared of a lot of things like in life. It's like I fear God and I fear like women and like whatever else. But like Aaron Rodgers is like like way up there as in terms of like I fear this man, and a lot of Bears fans are like, oh, I'm not scared of him, I'm not scared of him, but like I hate this guy. I'm scared. I hate him. I want him out like of the league, and like I just it would be so nice to send it, but it just seems like too good in a year where like the Bears like everything's just going too well. It just feels like that's like one where it's like we go back to reality, and then after that we play the Eagles and then the Lions. So it's like okay, then we get sent off to like a losing streak there. That's just what I feel. My pessimistic Bears fan, but for you as a Steelers fan, like I get that as well. Like, um, I'm just not a big Mason Rudolph guy. I've never really liked him. Um, I know you have different opinions on that, you and David, but like I just have always been kind of like nah on him, and he's just a career backup. Never did anything great with the Titans. Has been a career backup for a reason. No one's ever tried to trade for him. He's just he's just in my mind. He hasn't been great, so it would just be easier for us if I feel if Mason Rudolph played.
Okay, that's fair enough. So what are some keys to win in this game? Maybe give me one if Rodgers plays, give me one if Mason Rudolph plays. Keys to win for the Bears, how do they win this game? What does the game actually look like as far as the flavor of the game goes? Give me your insights on to what you think would play out in this upcoming week.
I think either way, like whoever plays, I think it'll be a low scoring game. I don't think the Bears offense will um, produce a lot. I think it'll be like a low like 20-17 game. I guess I'm giving predictions now, but I think it'll be a high teen, low 20 kind of point around. And I think the game will be separated by a field goal, in my opinion, either way. But I think the difference of that is just one drive between Rodgers and Rudolph. Um, but Rodgers just like, for him, like I was saying, get pressure on him, get pressure. The thing with the Bears defensive coordinator, Dennis Allen, he's very aggressive. He likes to go. He likes to blitz. Very like switch up things so he can like he's a big risk, big reward kind of guy, and that's why CJ Gardner Johnson has been so huge for us. Like he has 3 sacks in 2 games. That's crazy. It's because like he's sending him out because our freaking defensive tackles and ends can't get to him. Um, so just even doing stuff like that, like sending nickel blitzes down there. But that's our key for Rodgers, just getting pressure on him, making a move, getting the sack on him, getting the hit. But with Rudolph, it's kind of just the same form of like get turnovers, get the ball. Obviously, he hasn't like played in a while, so haven't seen the field. I guess since last year. Is it? Did he play last year?
Well, that would have been with the Titans. I mean, yeah, he did play last year. So I guess to get kind of insert a little bit more on Mason Rudolph from my perspective, Mason Rudolph with the Steelers is a pocket passer. He's going to sit in the pocket. He's not really going to move a whole lot, and he's going to deliver some deep balls. He'll turn it over occasionally, but not often. I mean, he's kind of just a game manager that's going to get the ball to where it needs to go, and occasionally he'll take a deep shot when it makes sense to do that. So, even in his short sample size this last week, I mean, it was the same Mason Rudolph. He made a lot of good passes. He made a couple of deep passes. He also missed a couple wide open options that he could have had for some touchdowns. But he's the other thing too is he is slightly more. I mean, not slightly, a ton more mobile than Aaron Rodgers. I mean, we saw some bootlegs this last week that were creating some guys open for the Steelers, which the Steelers have not had a lot of people open the last several weeks, which I think has been a reason why Rodgers has struggled. But for Mason Rudolph specifically, he adds a little bit of a different flavor to the Steelers offense that they don't have with Rodgers, just simply because Rodgers is stationary and Rudolph, while he's not mobile necessarily, he can actually move. So, when you're talking about how the Bears don't get a lot of pressure, I feel like it doesn't exactly matter who the quarterback is because both of him and Rodgers are going to sit in the pocket regardless. It might actually, now that you talk about it, it might be worse if Rodgers is in there for the Bears because he hasn't really been able to just sit back there the last several weeks. I mean, the Chargers defense went crazy on him. They had so much pressure on him. And even in this Bengals game, like the Bengals got some pressure on him, and that's what ultimately knocked him out of the game. So if Rodgers has time to sit back there with his broken wrist, maybe he starts to turn things up, as that we haven't seen in the last several weeks. Same thing if it's Mason Rudolph, he gets the opportunity to be able to sit back there, maybe throw some deep shots that we haven't been able to hit in probably 4 or 5 weeks or so. So it's kind of give and take. The more that I process this, even as you're talking about the Bears, it seems like, it might not even matter who's back there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point for sure. I went from it as a point of like if you do need to like what you're touching on, like if you do get that pressure, then like Rudolph will be able to roll that pocket more, which is crazy because that's usually Rodgers kind of like strong. So he usually rolls that pocket, slings it. But now he's old. Now he's just He looks like Ben Roethlisberger out there without the weight. Um, but something else I want to like touch on, like with the defense of the Bears, is like we've just been injured all year. Jalen Johnson, who I think is a top three cornerback in the league, has been out pretty much all year except for one game. TJ Edwards, who's a pretty good linebacker, kind of slowish. Also went to my high school. Fun fact. He's solid. He's been solid for us since he signed with us from the Eagles, but missing him has been huge. And then Tyreek Stevenson's questionable. Kyler Gordon has been out for a little bit. He's a freak of an athlete. So if we can get these guys back, which I think they're all kind of questionable for this week, that would be huge. But I think a key for the Steelers would be targeting their tight ends. They're all 17 of their tight ends. You got Johnny Smith, you got Frymouth, you got big boy Donald Washington there. I think they're all going to feast because our linebackers, like Jermaine Edmonds, like I'm talking about him, like he's one of those guys that like just depends upon the interceptions. Same with him and Edwards are just slow up the middle from the linebacker position, and I just think your tight ends will feast on us.
Interesting. I think that's been kind of the cry from Steelers fans in the last couple of weeks is, hey, we just saw what Darnell Washington did to the entirety of the Bengals defense just a couple of days ago.
Crazy.
We need to see more of that. We need to see more involvement from Freiermuth. Jonnu Smith, we brought him in for a reason. We just haven't seen much from him either. That might be an opportunity this week to really let the tight end university kind of show up. So We'll see how that kind of plays out. Now I guess it's time to get your official predictions on this game. I'll make you predict a couple of different things. First off, who starts the game for the Steelers? What's the score? Who wins the game?
I'm going Kirk Rodgers is starting. Him and the Hat Man, they're going to go at it. I got the Steelers winning 20-17. I think that Rodgers leads a last-second comeback field goal. Usually it's the Bears doing that, but I see it the other way around. I got 20-17, maybe 24-17, but I'll ride 20-17. I'm still traumatized by Rodgers, so.
Okay,
but if Rudolph starts, then I think we win.
Okay. So here's my final question. If what your predictions do come to fruition, if Rodgers plays and he leads the Steelers to a win over the Bears, how does that affect your outlook as a Bears fan for the rest of the season?
I think it'll be good for us, honestly, because like we said, like we've had a cupcake schedule, and then the week after we have a short off week going against the Eagles on Black Friday, so that'll be a tough one as well. I think if we lose, we'll be more prepared for the Eagles because it'll be more of a must-win game. But if we win against the Steelers, I think it's kind of like, oh my gosh, we're on the streak, 8 of 9 games, like. Obviously it's the Eagles, but like they've been kind of slacking recently, and so I think that'll set the tone of like, okay, like I think it'll just reveal like who we are as a team. Just as like, okay, are we just gonna ride off this cupcake schedule? Are we gonna lose to every good team and just beat the Browns and like beat whatever weak opponent we have and just kind of ride into the 9-8, maybe hopefully potential playoffs? Or we can actually show that we're good, show that we're gonna lose a game and then come back. So I think it'll show our identity because I think right now the Bears have an identity of just toughness and just winning these tough, gritty games that we usually lose for the past, 7-8 years. But now it's just like, okay, like where are we at? What are we going to do? And I think got some dogs on the team.
All right. Well, understand that from my perspective, I can't necessarily speak for David, but I would assume that he's also in that boat too, is that we're rooting for the Bears overall, not this week, but, we love the Bears. We love the Bears. We want the Bears to win. That's kind of the thing, especially over the course of the last couple of years, getting to know you and your fandom and, seeing how passionate you are. Personally, I want to see the Bears win. I want to see them do good and be successful. And hey, you haven't played the Packers yet this season, and, there's a chance there for some stuff to happen because I think both me and you agree that Jordan Love is terrible. He's just gotten super lucky this season. So in those two games, I'm hoping the Bears can figure it out in those ones.
I think we'll split one-on-one with the Packers. I don't think he's terrible, and I think he'll feast on the Bears, especially with how bad I think it's the same thing with him. Like you get him sitting in the pocket, he's going to torch anybody. I do think he's a little bit of fraud. $55 million is absurd, dude. Absurd. That's crazy. $55 million for Jordan Love. But I'm slow to insult him because I know that he'll just freaking curb stomp us. So, but yeah, and hey, likewise as well. I love the Steelers. I have the terrible towel. I went to that Monday Night Football game where Minkah Fitzpatrick destroyed Nick Chubb's knee, and T.J. Watt got his all-time Steelers sack record. That was huge. So I love the Steelers. They're probably my AFC team. Here we go, Steelers. Not this week, though. From the rest of it, I hope that y'all will overcome Lamar Jackson. I hope that you guys can win the division and actually, win a playoff game because that would be huge. But yeah, I'm right there with you. I like the Steelers. It's just hopefully y'all can do something this year post week 12.
Yep. That's kind of how we're operating right now. Enemies this week, but friends the rest of the season. That's kind of how most of these segments go on these Outside Perspective episodes, which are always sponsored by Zecca Enterprises, crafting furniture solutions in northwestern Pennsylvania. You can call 919-406-4679 to turn your furniture problems into furniture solutions. Logan, you have any final comments that you want to get out over the airwaves before we let you go?
Yeah, I do actually. I don't retract what I just said, but you know what? I hope Rodgers sits out for the rest of the year. I hope Mason Rudolph leads y'all to victory. I actually don't want Aaron Rodgers to win anything in life, actually. But if Mason Rudolph or, whoever else is there, bring back Doug Hodges, bring back Josh Dobbs, the astronaut, bring back anybody else. Because like with Rodgers, like, it's like, like on the Jets, I was like, you know what? I can try to appreciate him for like who he is. Like, he is an all-time great and like he has one of the craziest arms I've ever seen. But he's just still just like meh. And then with the Steelers, it's like okay, we're doing something here. We're kind of cooking. And then now it's like he's fighting tooth and nail to play against the Bears, and it's like but like he still hates us, and it's like I get it, but man, screw that guy, And I'm gonna say it, and I'm gonna be at home. I'm gonna be in Chicago for that game. And I'm gonna feel the weight of Aaron Rodgers there. So I think I've just talked about him the whole time. So I'm sorry this has turned into an Aaron Rodgers hate podcast, but it is what it is. Other final thoughts. Hey, go Bears. Good, better, best. Never let it rest until your good gets better and your better gets best. Come on, somebody. I had to drop that at some point. Been a heck of a ride. I just want to make the playoffs. Obviously I want to win the playoffs, but to being like all those Justin Fields teams, all those Matt Nagy, Matt Eberflus, that moron, seeing them like just there, like to now it's like we have a coach that actually, wants to win games and will actually use timeouts. It's been huge and it's been so fun to watch. So, 7-3 leading the division. The Chicago Bears are leading the division right now, going into week 12. That has not happened since 2018. That is crazy. And no one would have guessed it either. And yeah, we have a lot tougher schedule second half of the year, but just hopefully win 2 or 3 more games, make the playoffs, and then, I'll be so happy. I'll be the jolliest man in the world, and praise God.
A jolly Logan would be great for the world, I think. And like I said, we're kind of all rooting for it. And hey, I do appreciate the fact that you retracted your statement on the Steelers the rest of the year. Because personally, I was thinking in my mind, does he really want Aaron Rodgers to do anything? And I'm glad that you thought critically about that for a couple seconds, because I was also thinking that myself. Hey, once Aaron Rodgers gets out of here, then you can root for the Steelers passionately for however long you want to. As long as Aaron Rodgers is here, as a Steelers fan, I wouldn't necessarily even want you to root for the Steelers, if that makes sense.
Hey, I feel like every time I root for the Steelers, they just don't do well. So hopefully, maybe me rooting against them will actually, for your guys' sake, prove positive fruit. But yeah, I said that, I was like, wait a minute. Screw that guy, actually. I want Mason Rudolph to lead y'all to victory. I want Doug Hodges to come back. I don't care. I want it to happen.
Well, that makes a lot of sense, and we're glad that we got Logan Foote on this week. This is, again, one of the most anticipated episodes of Outside Perspective that we have ever had on this podcast, and we will undoubtedly be talking about the prospects. Who's going to start this coming week? Aaron Rodgers? Is it going to be Mason Rudolph? We're going to talk about it, myself and David, here in the next couple of days. So make sure you tune into that episode. We're going to recap the Bengals game and a lot of the stuff that went down. And I have a feeling that this week between myself and David is going to get really spicy because we are having some off-air arguments as to what is going on with Aaron Rodgers. So make sure you tune into that, which will be coming out very soon. But as for this episode of Outside Perspective with Logan Foote, thanks for listening to this one. Logan, thanks for joining us. And we will see you after this Bears game in Week 12 of the NFL season.
Hey, blessed to be here. Thank you so much. Shout out again. Thank you for not asking me the win percentage either. 700, by the way. 700 win percentage, Joseph Kersey. You can take that to the bank. 7-3. But hey, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. I've been longing for this for a couple years now, so thank you. I'm blessed. Long time listener here.
Absolutely. Happy to have our longtime listeners on the podcast. Hey, and if you're a Steelers fan or a fan of one of the teams that the Steelers are about to play, let us know, and we might bring you on for an outside perspective episode yourself. But as for me, I'm Zane Bloom with Logan Foote. We will see you after this Bears week, hopefully after a Here We Go Steelers win.
Da Bears.